Hey, so I was thinking about it, right? I had shot this video and let's get this front and center here. I'd shot this video and I was thinking about just talking about travel and maps, but then I thought maybe travel isn't available to everyone. So I thought this will be a little bit longer, but I just want to tell you a little bit about my own journey. And the main thing here is that people in your life are just going to tell you that you can't do things. That your parents, you got to do it the same way. That older people, they're going to be bitter. Or people around you are going to try to drag you down. You should look up this thing. It's called the crabs in the bucket mentality, where people pull each other down. I see it all the time. Really see it all the time. And I guess I wanted to tell you about my own story and what I've accomplished and just to inspire you to do what you need to do. And maybe that takes the form of travel. I want you to expand that map in your mind. I don't want you to be afraid of something. It might be math. It might be going to graduate school. It might be changing the world. It might be making money. But yeah, there I am. There I am, right? Oh man, those glasses, they definitely had Nintendo on the inside of them. And that's, back in the day, if you played video games, that was like pretty nerdy. So here I am, and hey, man, I was a kid. I was very shy, very low self-esteem. Didn't think I could accomplish much. Afraid of almost everything. Had a lot of anxiety as a kid. But there's these moments in my life where I was just able to poke through that, just to be like, hey, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get past it. I'm going to go into the afraid, the unknown. Even if for some people it was a little bit easier, for me it was harder. So I want to tell you some of those tales. If you don't want to listen, you don't have to. So here's a recent shot of me kind of looking down, sneaking up on a parking garage, looking down. Yeah, it's a long story. The person down there in the downstairs definitely gave permission, but then they weren't so happy about it later on. But I went up there with a photographer friend and just took some pictures. So that's like a bit of a shift for me, thinking about from here to here. I'm balancing on something. I would have never been up there. But there was a couple of things in my life. You could see, look at my toe down there. I guess I probably was like 22. I started doing Taekwondo, when I was like 18, 19 in a college class. Didn't really have much confidence in myself. Was told that I should stop doing it after a class or two. I even broke my hand because I was stupid. I didn't know how to throw a punch. And I saw the higher level people kind of, playing around in the gym and, soft punching the wall, but I punched it hard. And I broke my hand and I was out for months. And of course I was demoralized and I definitely wanted to quit. People made fun of me. They said martial arts is for kids. This is kind of right before like the MMA explosion, right? And Taekwondo really isn't good for fighting. I guess it can be, but what I've been told is it's good for kicking people off of horses, right? You do these like in Muay Thai, you kick with your shin, and in Taekwondo, you kick with your instep. It's an Olympic sport, and you score points and things like that, but it's not necessarily for MMA. But we did all these high kicks, spinning heel kicks, and so many times I got hurt or I didn't feel as good as other people, and I wanted to quit so badly. And this is the theme for all these stories, is that I was too dumb to quit. That's the story. I mean, I might have my PhD, I might be in your professor role right now, but really, my thing is that I was just too dumb to quit. Too dumb to quit. Here's Master Choi. He was really great to me, and this is right after my or before, I don't remember, my black belt ceremony. I remember I had practiced breaking this piece of cinder from Home Depot. And I practiced it a few times, and it was good. We had to do a breaking test. And for some reason, I couldn't do it on the day, and I had my arm in a sling. It was pretty funny, but it was a nice metaphor because again, I would come all the time and I would fail and I wouldn't be great in the class and I wouldn't be confident in myself. But Master Choi over there, he really kind of showed me the way. And, I thank him for sure. But I started out with one class. I broke my hand. I didn't feel adequate, but I kept on showing up, and I was able to get my black belt. Here I am getting my PhD. As you can tell, a lot more hair and skinnier too. This is before I started lifting weights. I actually was pretty close to becoming FDNY at some point because I didn't want to be a professor anymore. That's another fun story. And part of that was just proving to myself that I could hang. But this is my friend Hasib, and he's just clowning. But this is me relieved that I just finished my defending my PhD. And it was a hard road because, again, people told me, they said, you can't do this. I came to this place, the Graduate Center. It was filled with all these people who had went to private schools, who talked all fancy. And I was just this guy who came from public schools and was into sports and had like this traditional kind of masculinity. And I really wasn't accepted, and I was always the youngest person in the room. And that had came with many wrinkles to like how I would negotiate getting my PhD. But people I worked with, even advisors, kind of stood in my way. They didn't like my project. The norms and the rules of the place, just said, don't do it, stop, do something else. But I had an idea. I wanted to learn about myself. I wanted to learn about my ancestors who had lived in the Bronx in the generation or two before me. And somehow I was able to carry it through. I guerrillaed it, when they said no, I said yes, and I did things kind of underground. And even in the defense that day, there was still one of my advisors who didn't want to pass me. And I like to say that I got lucky, but I really tried hard, and I was too dumb to quit. When they said, no, we don't like this, I could have taken that as a sign to quit or not do well, but I kept on going. And you have to do the same thing. You gotta use that as fuel. To this day, I had this kind of ex-girlfriend. Shortly after this, I remember I told her and her friend, hey, I'm going to change this academic game. I'm going to do different things. You'll see. And they told me, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. So it's okay to use fuel from people who told you that you can't do things. That's an amazing thing for someone to say no to you, because then you can prove them wrong. I talked a little bit about Taekwondo, but, I never, in my early 20s, I had this fun thing where I just got into a lot of accidents. I hurt myself pretty bad. I was learning control of my body a lot. And the thing that helped me most to do that was doing yoga. This is in Arizona, and this is in, I guess, July or late June. And because it was rocky, I couldn't get the best shape on my headstand here, but it's kind of beautiful, and people were freaking out because they were like, yo man, you're gonna die, this is I'll die if I fall. And I remember my friend, and she was there, excuse me, and people were like, hey, you got to get your friend down there, and everyone was kind of scared, but I control my body. I know my body, and it's through yoga and a long kind of path that I started on. Again, started out, people say to me all the time, I'm not flexible. Yoga's too slow. Look at all these people who are just ultra flexible and can do all the poses. That's not me. That was me too. And I still have some problems getting into the poses, but, this is me. I know my body, mind, body, knowing how it all works together. And it took me a long time. I've been doing yoga probably over 15 years. Here I am on a yoga retreat. Not the best wheel there. Not ideal, but that was good for me from where I started. And it culminated about 3 years ago. I did a yoga teacher training, and here I am with some of the other people who were in my training. It was an amazing kind of 3 to 4 weeks I spent in San Francisco with these people, and we all got to know each other, learned a lot about bodies and teaching yoga. And again, too dumb to quit. Even during that time, there was times where things like partying pulled me out of that, right? And I thought about quitting. I even left at one point, but I knew I had to keep on going. Perseverance and drive is just something that, you don't necessarily have to be the best or gifted, but if you work hard enough, I been into all these situations where people have just told me I've been at the bottom. I've been the worst person. Even in Japanese, I took Japanese last year. I was the worst person in the class. But you learn to love that. You learn to love that because you can look back and say, look what I accomplished, right? And we have our constraints. I'm not telling you have your constraints, and hard work will get you anything you want. Like, I understand that. But you have to start where you're at, and you can move forward no matter what your goal is. And now I'm a certified yoga teacher, and people are asking me all the time, right? Oh, how can I improve? What can I do? Can you help me out with that? And I was that same kid back then who definitely had no confidence in my body, picked on, beat up, made fun of all the time. So that was me. And now I go around and people are like, oh, I'm impressed. How do you do that? So what a journey it has been for me in my life. Here's another one. This is in Thailand, and traveling alone across the world to all types of places, that just came natural to me. Was I afraid at points? Of course. Was I just like, what's going to happen? How am I going to get home? Will anyone find me if I die here? Like all those anxiety questions, of course I had them, as you would traveling alone. Is it safe? As my dad would say. My dad's very risk averse, and he can't believe that I do what I do. But this was in Thailand, and I found it very incredibly freeing to be able to ride a scooter around in mountains. And I've done it in Vietnam as well. So beautiful. I recommend it, right? It's an amazing thing, and a lot of people in that part of the world do kind of ride these scooters. But I came to an impasse because a long time ago, I went a cross-country trip with my friend. We stayed in Berkeley. He ended up becoming a doctor there and staying there. We loved it so much. And we went down the coast. It was a beautiful night. We snuck into these hot springs overlooking the Pacific, one of the most beautiful places in the world. For sure. It's called Big Sur, and where those hot springs are called Esalen. Amazing place. We snuck in. We saw the stars overlooking the Pacific Ocean while in like natural hot spring tubs. Wow. Amazing. But then we got locked in. The next day we went down to this place, Hearst Castle, and then we decided to ride bikes in Pismo Beach, California. An ATV on sand dunes, and I got too carefree and went flying off, and the ATV landed on me. Broke 2 ribs, tore my lung, cracked the top bone in my spine. I had a big cut on my neck. I was this close to having a major artery cut. And, I had to go to the hospital for a little while. I healed fine, but from that moment on, I never wanted to get on any kind of bike again. But then I got to Thailand, and I saw on these islands I was on that there was no way around without riding one of these bikes. And I looked at myself and I said, I'm not taking the coward's way out. My body was like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You almost died. But I said, I've had all this yoga. I trust my body. I know me. And I had this moment of truth where I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. So for me, too dumb to quit. I probably should have never gotten on a bike again. After what had happened to me, I came this close to dying. But I said, you know what? I trust myself. I have to do this. Let's go for it. Too dumb to quit. You too can do this. Whatever it is. Maybe it's not getting on a bike, but maybe you've had some horrible experience with something and you're afraid to go back into it because of it. And here I am. I just met this dog and we became best friends. Did some yoga on the mountain. I took a ferry out to this island, got a bike, hung out all day, hung out with this dog, ate some great food, hung out by the beach. Man, I miss traveling. If you have any questions about traveling alone or places in Europe, most of East Asia, or some parts of Central America, Colombia. If you have any questions about traveling and things like that, what to pack the smallest amount as possible, let me know. And here I am DJing. Okay, we're at 15 minutes. I'll end this at 20, promise. And again, if this was fascinating to you, good for you. And if you quit, you quit. So here I am, long story. Maybe you've heard about Art Basel in Miami, in Wynwood. To be honest with you, I had been dating someone who opened a gallery there. God, Miami is a weird place. A lot of people who didn't earn the money that they have, but somehow can manifest it. Her father was a Cuban immigrant and had owned all these buildings in Miami, and they sold one of them after he died, and they got millions of dollars to go ahead and open a art gallery. And we weren't seeing each other anymore, but she needed a DJ to host her opening, and so she dialed up me and my friend. The way that we started DJing, you're not going to believe this. This is a little theme here, and I encourage you to do the same thing, is just jump in without looking and figure it out when you get in there. What's the worst that's going to happen? My friend, he had become a baby dad recently, and he was trying to work it out with the baby mom. And so what happened is we had to reconfigure our apartment, which... and this is the great thing, I have this nice house here. But back then we lived 3 people and sometimes 4 people, rotating people, in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. And we were looking to get someone new in there because my friend was going to move out and try to make it work with his baby moms. So we get this woman in there, and I've always collected records. And she comes in and she goes, "Hey, are you guys DJs?" I look at him, he looks at me, and I go, "Yeah, we're DJs." Never had DJed a day in my life, just played some records. She goes, "Do you want to DJ my boss's party, Halloween party at a loft in Union Square?" And we're like, "My brother." We made it happen. But guess what? We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know anything about DJing. I had to call my friend up, get some equipment. Yeah, so we made it rock. We got paid a good amount of money, and then it became a thing for us. I apprenticed under a guy in Bed-Stuy. He gave me all his jobs he didn't want. I've always been part of the hip-hop game, but yeah, that's how we got in DJing, basically lying about it, right? If you have an opportunity, you take it. Just figure it out, right? Whatever you want to do. If you're hungry enough and you stick around long enough, they're going to go ahead and be like, yeah, okay, you're going to get your shot. You're going to get your shot, and hopefully you take advantage of it. If not, you just fail and you try again. But don't have any regrets. And the final thing that I want to show you here is this. So when I came back to teach at Temple, they wanted me to teach a web mapping class. You see, this is JavaScript. And you'll be doing this, coincidentally, in the next lab. And the problem was that I didn't really know much programming at all. I mean, I'm a great teacher, I think, but I didn't know much programming at all. So I had to learn it in a very short period of time. I took a course, I taught it to myself. I took that mentality again. I said, you know what? Let me get the opportunity and I'll figure it out as I go. And that's where a lot of soft skills come in. We call them soft skills, like being able to communicate with people, being organized. You can cover up a lot of deficiencies for a little bit anyway until you really learn what you're doing. Now I'm good at it. I teach my own course on it. I'm proud of my skills, but I learned from nothing pretty much. I just started out and said, hey, I'm just going to have to work really hard at this. And it was scary. I was too dumb to quit. It was scary. I could have made it easy on myself. So I'm just here to inspire you. I told my friend about this, and he's in a band, and he kind of toured with this group brand new back in the day, and he had some success. And he told me the best piece of advice I think that you guys could use is don't get comfortable. When you get comfortable, then you stop. You're not hungry anymore. You don't hustle. You don't get the things you want. It's easy to be comfortable. I'm so comfortable right now. I've built the life that I wanted for myself, right? I thought I always wanted, but it's just not enough. And so I have to push myself back into that discomfort in order to get to the higher levels of what I want to achieve. And I encourage you to do the same thing. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to bring you down. There's going to be relationships. There's going to be responsibilities, everything like that. But I'm here to say that, with some hard work and some perseverance, you will face obstacles, right? I Again, and I'm familiar with the lingo. Like, look at me, like I'm a white dude, okay? I understand that, right? But that don't mean things were easy for me. I faced a lot of things where I grew up, that weren't easy. No one I grew up with amounted to much at all, to be honest with you. So we all face our obstacles. Some of them are more severe than others, right? But that doesn't mean you can't make progress. That doesn't mean that you can't make a difference in your own life, in your community, and the world around you. Thanks for listening.